Kingsman: The Golden Circle. Is it any good, and should you see it? That's pretty much the crux of any review at the end of the day, and yes, it's good, very good in fact, and yes, you should go and see it. This review will be with spoilers included simply because there is so much about the story that hasn't been revealed, it's difficult to discuss the pros and cons. However, what I will do is give you guys a quick spoiler-free rundown and then go into spoilers so this video can be enjoyed by everyone. Hopefully. So, without spoiling anything, one of the best things from this movie is the action, which was one of the best things from the previous installment. With such a high bar set, it's amazing that they managed to surpass it, in my view, and at the very least, they matched it. They did this in a way that wasn't simply making the action scenes longer or more extravagant and outlandish, because let's face it, Kingsman did a fantastic job of showing us some outlandish scenes. But the way in which they upped the ante was with the type of action, tools, locations and stakes. The acting is solid all round. Some of the actors are there though to chew scenery, and I can't say too much, but I will get into that further with spoilers as there is a reason for it. From the trailers and marketing material, we know that Colin Firth is back. All I'll say for this spoiler-free section is it isn't massively contrived like I thought it would be, and I was actually pleasantly surprised with the mechanism by which Colin Firth came back. All round, story is great, paying homage again to the Roger Moore campy style Bond, playing on the tropes of that iconic era, but bringing the action and gore that Vaughn is so renowned for. The villain definitely isn't a copy of Valentine from the first movie, and that is refreshing. Poppy, played by Julianne Moore, clearly enjoyed this role. You can see she had fun and she made it her own. Really enjoyable villain and overall great story. So that's enough for non-spoilers. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of the film. What was good, what was bad, and why? First things first, Colin Firth. No, not a clone, he is exactly the same character, Galahad, Harry. Now this is something that I thought would be incredibly contrived or potentially just too outlandish. The reveal of Harry being alive is far along in the film that you are at least back in the universe again, and when they explain the mechanism by which he survived, I found myself going, oh, okay, no, I kind of believe this. So if you remember, Kentucky was where Harry was shot at point blank range after his murderous Freebird rampage. This is coincidentally where the Statesmen are as well, which sets it up nicely for the reveal that the Statesman picked up the frequency and headed there as soon as possible, only finding Harry lying on the ground bleeding out. They used a medical field dressing that they had invented specifically for head wounds, and the rest was repaired by nanobots. Now, Harry isn't completely Harry, and this is where some of the emotion and heart comes into play in this movie. He has amnesia, and Eggsy and Merlin try and make him remember. But all in all, not a bad way to bring him back. Really quite enjoyed it, to be honest. So let's talk about chewing scenery. Jeff Bridges is in this movie as Champs, or Champagne, and yes, he's chewing a lot of scenery. Doesn't really do too much and is there to only really play Jeff Bridges. It's not that bad though, and as leaders of these spy agencies go, he is on par with Michael Caine for scene chewing, which is fine. Channing Tatum as well, big letdown in this film. Why? Because he was pushed heavily in the marketing material to only be put on ice for the whole film. This was of course to stop a virus which most of the world was infected with. This isn't so bad though. The scenes he is in, he's great, and the reason they cast him for that role is because there is a blatant sequel in the works, or at least the ending of this film opens itself up for one where Channing would take centre stage. Halle Berry is the counterpart to Mark Strong's character in this movie, and she is sadly another that chews some scenery. But nothing major, and she does have some important parts to play here and there. But again, she is essentially set up for the potential of a future movie, and in her role, she did well. These Statesmen are not really there to be the focal point, but they need to weave in and out with our main characters, which they do well. Aside from that, Taron Egerton did an awesome job once more at portraying Eggsy and hasn't lost any of his bruv and gentlemanly charm. We see his character developed and has come a long way, which is nice to see considering we grew to like him so much from the first movie. We also get an incredible rendition of John Denver, Take Me Home, by Mark Strong, who is an incredibly underrated actor in my view, though unfortunately we will not be seeing him again in a future movie because he's been blown up by a landmine. Much the same way as Roxy and the other Kingsmen, they were all killed by our villain Poppy, who, like I said, is not Valentine. Poppy is a psychopath, cold, calculated, charming, and endearing. Yet, if you cross her, she will tell your oldest friend to shove you headfirst into a meat grinder and make a burger from you. No, really, she actually did that in the film. Poppy is the leader of the Golden Circle and a drug overlord whose ultimate plan was to infect everyone who uses her drugs with a virus and then force the US president to legalize and tax her products in exchange for the antidote. She has her villainous sidekick in the form of Charlie Hesketh, the former recruit of Kingsman, who managed to survive and now has a metal arm. Lastly, we have our turncoat agent in Whiskey, or Pedro Pascal, immediately great accent, surprisingly. His turn wasn't mega broadcast, but you could definitely see it coming. We also get a cameo from Sir Elton John, which surprisingly came off really well. We see him once or twice, nothing major, then it builds in what we see him do until the very end where he takes centre stage and assists Harry in killing a robotic dog. It really was something that could have come across terrible, forced, and just gratuitous, but Vaughan pulled it off in a way that built up slowly and it worked. It really did, and it was funny to boot. There isn't really any major downsides to this movie, genuinely. Everything was very well done, even the effects were solid, in keeping with the first, and it just worked. The only things I can pick up on and take some slight issue with is the scene chewing for actors. If they do not make a sequel to this, a third installment in the series, then they could have hired some significantly cheaper actors, which is why I think it's safe to assume there will be a third movie. All in all though, it's a great fun watch. If you loved the first one, go and watch this in the theatre. It's a good sequel, topped it in numerous ways, but definitely hasn't surpassed it. You will not be disappointed. Kingsman is out in a few days' time and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, so do let me know what you thought down below in the comments section. And if you did enjoy this video, then please consider leaving it a like and subscribing to the channel for more movie reviews in the future. I've been Mr. H, and until next time, I'll catch you in the comment section.